Bryan May, welcome back to the Chamber.
Pleasure. Absolutely.
When was the last time you were out here? Oh, about a few weeks ago, I think, maybe. You know, it's always fun for me. It's always fun for us to sit down and chat. We have a coffee every now and again. It's good. Yeah. I do want to make this one comment right off the top, and as you well know, the Chamber of Commerce is a nonpartisan organization. We work with whoever is elected because, you know, we all have to try and get along. Partisan politics really only happens during an election, not afterwards, because politicians are just your representatives, right? So, but I do want to say one thing that you and I personally, but also your office and the Chamber of Commerce have had a remarkable relationship over the last 9 or 10 years, and you know, I want to say that because. Not a lot of people know this, but, you know, you've made phone calls right from, you know, Parliament Hill when you're in the middle of a session and you duck out, oh, I better give Greg a call on this. And you've sent me texts, and your offices have kept us in touch all the time. And I just want to say, you know, first of all, we certainly appreciate that. And I have appreciated working with you over the last 10 years. And you've done well by the Chamber of Commerce, that's for sure.
Well, thank you for saying that. I honestly, I'm blessed with an amazing team. So you mentioned my office. It's my name on the building, but my staff are remarkable. And I've hired not only from Cambridge, almost exclusively, but also people with service background. Right? So they get it, and they understand the business world as well. One of the things that I'm always pushing is that I'm here to serve everyone in this community, not just those that supported me during an election. And it's interesting because you'll see somebody come into the office and they'll say, you know, I didn't vote for you, but I need this help. And I'm like, whoa, I don't need to know that. It's a secret ballot. It's a secret ballot. But I think that's gone over incredibly well. I've talked to a lot of business leaders in this community, not just yourself, but a number of folks in small, medium, and large businesses, and being able to learn so much through you, through them, about the challenges that businesses face here in Cambridge.
No, and all of our conversations have always been, you know, extremely positive, and you're always looking to solve problems, and, you know, we just appreciate that because we're sitting here. I'm just a little old chamber guy, and, you know, what do I know? But it's been nice, and I want to make sure that I you know, publicly acknowledge that because I think it's important that people understand that regardless of partisanship, that we understand the roles of what we have to do in our community.
Exactly.
You know, both of us. So I appreciate that. I have to explain why I got this. So
I think it's a good look for you. You may want to keep it.
I don't know about that. Some people say I got the Einstein look, and I say, well, that's good because I'm answering questions all day, and people are asking me questions. So, you know, I'm not sure whether I got the Einstein answers or not. That's the only problem. But I had surgery just recently, about a week and a half ago, on my neck, and back in December I had a little bit of smaller surgery as well. So the last 4 months I've been, you know, a principal residence at the Cambridge Memorial Hospital. But let me tell you, and those are the first two operations I remember in my life.
Okay.
I did have my tonsils out, but I don't remember it because I was like 4 or 5 years old. But I have to tell you, it came to me not as a surprise, but because you hear of all the negative aspects of our healthcare system, you know, and our universal healthcare system, and you know, it's not reactive enough. But I can tell you that I had a wonderful experience in spite of the fact I was having an operations. But I had a wonderful experience, and it's not because of the procedure; it's because of the people.
Yeah, exactly.
The people we are so blessed to have that take care of us are amazing people. You know, right away they chose the right path for their own selves because they really know what to do. But here's my concern. We went through a pandemic that pointed out the glaring issues that we have with our healthcare system, right? Not enough of this, not enough of that, missing this, missing that. These procedures that I had, I wouldn't have been able to get them during COVID.
That's right,
Right? So, because there was no ability to do it. So, yes, we have a great system. Not perfect, it's a great system. We know there are deficiencies. We saw those highlighted during the pandemic, but now we don't have a pandemic. Are we forgetting about all of that? Because the health policy for people is, it's either one or two in every election.
You're not wrong. I have said on a number of issues, not just healthcare, but a number of issues, we're potentially forgetting the lessons learned during COVID. Not just measures that we need to take to keep each other safe, but the work-life balance issues.
Yep.
You know, there's a real push to kind of get everybody back to work, which is nails on a chalkboard for people that have been working at home because they have been working, right? So I think there's a lot of things that we could talk about there, but your issues around healthcare and the concerns around healthcare are absolutely valid. We know, as a Liberal, universal health care is sacred. We've been fighting to keep universal health care on the front of everybody's mind as long as I've been a Liberal.
Yep.
We know that when we came into office in 2015, the health accord had died on the vine, was no longer in existence. And I thought that was going to take us the better part of that majority government to get reestablished, but the provinces were so eager to meet. It happened within the first 6 months, and we established a new relationship with the provinces on healthcare transfers. We index them. We have the transfer payments that we see this year are the highest transfer payments in the history of Canada, and it's indexed to inflation. And so we need to make sure that kind of funding is maintained. The challenge, I think, is if I can get a little cerebral with our Constitution a little bit. The Constitution, in my opinion, Canadian Constitution, is the reason we are the greatest country in the world. But there are challenges, and one of those challenges is the federal government can share whatever dollar amount through those transfer payments to the provinces, but I can't necessarily tell them how to spend it.
Yeah.
And as you know perfectly well, governing is all about choices. And I believe I heard just today that the Ford government is moving to establish new guidelines around getting a family doctor. These are the kinds of things we've needed to see, not long before COVID. But it's moving in that right direction. And I think that as provinces start to recognize the challenges that they now are in, because they haven't invested effectively in healthcare, not just in staff, but also in infrastructure, equipment, those sorts of things. They're seeing the deficiencies across even their own provinces. From one end of the province to the other, there's not a balance in terms of access to healthcare. And in some provinces, certain healthcare is just not existent.
Yeah.
And so I think the provinces, regardless of political stripe, are starting to recognize that and are looking for solutions. And the federal government has to be incredibly nimble. We need to make sure that we are there as a partner, and we are there to make sure that they have the resources they need to move in that direction.
For sure.
The fear always is this two-tier healthcare system. And when we start to see funding at the provincial level start to go to a two-tier healthcare system, that is a red flag for a Liberal. It's a red flag for the federal government because universality in healthcare is sacred.
Yeah.
This past provincial election, when the surveys were out, healthcare was the number one issue. And I think the Ford government may have recognized that because you're starting to see some of those announcements coming up.
Yeah, it's a basic fundamental that we've all come accustomed to rely on, and when we see those holes, not that you can plug all the holes because you're never going to be able to plug all the holes, but certainly we can't forget about them. Even the ones we can't plug right now, we can't forget about those problems because someday down the road maybe we'll have an opportunity to plug those holes. So I just hate when we forget about what we went through because it's not there now.
And I've been knocking on a lot of doors, as I'm sure you recognize. Campaigning is all about connecting with people. And I was in Preston, and I knocked on a door, and a lady came to the door, and she identified as a nurse. And we started talking about her experience as a nurse. And I could feel the stress. I
Yeah.
could feel
course.
her anxiety, and she was young. I would say she was in her early 30s.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself as she's talking about her experiences as a nurse, I'm thinking, is this person going to retire as a nurse?
Yeah.
I don't know that she like honestly, like there are so many people that are moving on into different professions because of those challenges, because of what they were faced with, and then to not have the support after the fact. Like during, absolutely tons of support, tons of fanfare, thanking
Yeah.
all of the healthcare workers. Remember the banging
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
pots
yeah,
and pans.
yeah.
That needs to continue.
Yeah.
That level of support needs to continue, and I think there's real conversations about making sure that yes, we need more nurses, we need more doctors. What about the ones we have? Making sure we
Yeah,
keep them.
yeah, it's
Making
important.
sure retention is a key, because I think when you start to see those people moving on to other professions long before you would expect them to, it makes that problem significantly worse.
Yeah, we do the physician recruitment for family docs and actually for specialists as well. And we're actually coming up to in another month or so. We're going to be doing our Doctor Day appreciation, and we like to take them out and have some fun and show them how much we appreciate them for choosing our community to practice it. But we're in the midst of a crazy election. Wacky times. We've got a guy south of the border who is wackier than the times, it seems, but can never seem to make up his mind. We're not sure what his end game is. I don't even think he knows what his end game is, but in any event, disruption is what his game is. And where the problem is, Bryan, and you know this because you were out visiting businesses, uncertainty is not friendly to businesses. Businesses
Absolutely.
need certainty.
It's literally the number one thing.
Exactly.
I have been told by small and large businesses alike, we can adjust to taxes, we can adjust to regulations, we can adjust to consumer demand and changing patterns of consumers. We can adjust if we don't know what to adjust to.
Right.
And chaos breeds fear within businesses, and it means they stockpile.
Yep.
They sit on capital.
Yep.
And we saw that for 4 years under Donald Trump previously.
Yep.
We had companies like Toyota sitting on capital. And as soon as Trump was gone and there was a game plan again, there was rules, there was a sense of calm and a sense that you knew what was coming. All of a sudden, that capital started to flow.
But we as a country, we can't, and it's not anybody's fault. It's really convenient to throw your stuff on a truck and send it down south, right? It happens by tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
The problem is we can't continue to have 80% of what we make go there.
And we said that. We said that in our majority years between 2015 and 2019. We signed several free trade agreements, not just NAFTA, but the CETA deal, the CPTPP deal, opening up literally hundreds of millions of people to be able to open up those markets. And we started to see that. We started to see manufacturing, all those products, the raw materials, starting to shift towards Europe and South Asia. What happened? COVID happened, right? And supply chains just completely fell apart. And so there was an incredible amount of fear that when we came out of COVID to go back to that. And I think what Trump has done in his disruption is he's reminded manufacturers and suppliers and resource producers that there is another highway that can be driven down, and we can start to move our product to another source. And by the way, we can get more money.
Yes.
Right. The fact that we move to we move our products to the United States, being as easy as it is, the U.S. knows that, and they squeeze us. Right. So whether it's oil and gas, whether it's lumber, we don't pay. They don't pay the premium. They pay a discount. And we have a president in the United States that thinks it's the opposite, but the reality is they get a discount because they know they're our number one customer. And so I'm hearing from a lot of businesses that are saying, okay, we know these free trade agreements exist. We know that we need to pivot. We need to diversify. How do we do that?
Yeah.
And businesses will figure it out. They'll
Yeah.
figure that out. I have tons of confidence that they will.
Yeah.
The supply chain issue, that is, again, talking about things that were forgotten or lessons learned during COVID. That's something we're going to have to really focus in
Yeah.
on and make sure that it is robust enough that businesses do not fear it.
Yeah, no, there's no, I agree with you 100%. What I particularly, the other day we were having a conversation, well, we were talking a little bit about our vehicle woes and my vehicle woes of when I pull up to the pump and all that kind of stuff. And thank you very much, by the way, to Prime Minister Carney for getting rid of the gas tax, because I've appreciated that with my truck. However, EVs are the future, and I was talking to someone the other day about EVs, and well, I said I wanted the Lightning, right? That was
The F-150 Lightning.
couldn't afford it, but that's what I would have loved to have had. In any event, we aren't ready as a society. We're not ready for robust EV adoption. We just can't do that because we'd have brownouts all over the place. However, there was a comment made, I think it was by the Prime Minister the other day, talking about creating an energy grid right across the country from coast to coast.
That's right.
And oddly enough, this individual that I was talking to the other day said, before the Prime Minister came out with that announcement, he said, if we had an electrical grid that was connected right across the country, we could probably inch our way towards EV adoption. So that could be very, very big. Do you think that can happen?
Not only can it happen, it has to happen. It has to happen. And I think one of the absolute benefits for this community, Cambridge, is that we're going to be the heart of that. We are absolutely the heart of the nuclear industry. So I chair the nuclear caucus in Ottawa for the Liberals. And I have had my eyes opened in terms of how much actually happens in Cambridge. Of course, we don't have a nuclear power plant in Cambridge, but virtually everything that goes in them is built here. Whether it's BWXT, whether it's ATS, whether it's Eclipse Automation, Acon, all of those companies are right here. And the remarkable thing is they are gearing up. We're in the middle of what I'm referring to as a nuclear renaissance. We have the technology to build safe nuclear power across the country. We have provinces that you would never think would be interested in nuclear power, looking at things like SMRs to offset the electrical grid. But we also have other countries coming to us saying, we don't want to buy oil and gas from Russia anymore. Right? That whole aspect of what's happened in Eastern Europe with the war in Ukraine, the weaponization of energy. We've got now a deal with Romania. Believe it or not, we lent them $3 billion. 100% of that has to be paid back with interest, but 100% of that has to be spent in Canada on CANDU reactor technology to get them to expand their nuclear power plants. And I think that the challenges that we have here can be overcome if we recognize that nuclear power is also green energy, zero emissions. It's the only baseload energy we have right now that's zero emissions. And I'm a firm believer in wind, solar, biodiesel. All this stuff is very, very important. But I could show you an app on my phone that shows you where your electricity comes from at any given moment in Ontario, and at no time in my time in office have I seen that number on the nuclear side go below 50. It's usually sitting between 50 and 60%, and that's something I think most people in Canada aren't necessarily understand. We own the technology. CANDU is Canadian owned. And I believe that's the future moving forward. The other thing, the aspect of, because you're talking about electric vehicles, one of the things that we desperately needed and we've moved forward on is making sure that we can build them here. And so whether it's Windsor, whether it's St. Thomas, whether it's up in Barrie, all of those battery plant and EV assembly plants that we've announced just in the last 2 years. they're coming online. Windsor's coming online, and you're going to start to see not just the jobs, but the fruits of those laborers in terms of having access to that technology in Canada.
It's kind of exciting times. I think I would love to have an electric vehicle at some point, and maybe someday I will. But speaking of all of that, getting our natural resources to Tidewater is probably key and central. I think everybody's kind of recognized that. It took Donald Trump to punch us in the face to maybe figure that out. We all kind of knew it, but then thought, we'll get around to it. But I think now it's pretty important. It's like the pandemic stuff. We better not forget our lessons learned there.
Yeah.
We can't forget the lessons learned out of this charade going on south of the border. And so, I think it was great to see that provincial government announced that they got access to the Ring of Fire now to be able to put a road in there. We need to start. There's a really good start for us. Well, let's make sure that not all of that stuff's going to the United States. Let's make sure it's going to the world.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Getting our products to not just the West Coast, but the East Coast is critical. But there's also a conversation about going north. The waters in the Northwest Passage are significantly more passable now because of, frankly, climate change. There is a real conversation. But I think in terms of what you're referring to, Prime Minister Carney talking about the other day, creating an energy Canada as an energy superpower. And that's going to take cooperation from all levels of government, and I'm including First Nations in that. And I think we know that for the last 10 years we have been actually focused on getting products to Tidewater, and we did. We bought a pipeline. I take a lot of heat for that from the environmental side of things, right? But we did that, and then we doubled the capacity. That is hundreds of millions of barrels extra that are going now to the West Coast. We need to work with our provincial partners to get it now to the East Coast. And look, we got a lot of negativity from the Conservatives specifically saying, well, certain legislation is killing these programs and killing this development. Well, the reality is it was that legislation that allowed us to build that pipeline in the first place. Because what the opposition did not understand when they were in government was it wasn't the desire, it wasn't the capital, it wasn't the fact that we had customers waiting. It was the lack of respect for the environment and a lack of respect for First Nations, and the courts got involved and shut it all down. The legislation that we've put into place, a lot of people refer to it as C-69, is there because of that reality. And it has allowed for those projects to continue and get done. And I think if we are moving forward, creating an energy superpower in this country, we cannot forget those lessons and make sure that not just consulting First Nations, but having them at the table, not just consulting environmental groups, but having them at the table, so that these things actually move forward smoothly.
And the Kitimat LNG plant will be opening this summer.
It's so exciting.
That's awesome.
It's huge.
Although Donald Trump thought that Japan was more interested in American LNG, but they're actually the biggest customer out of the Kitimat one.
When that plant opens, it'll be equivalent to the largest plant in the States. It'll be one of the largest plants, if not the largest plant on the planet.
And I think we have 3 more under construction or in the process of being built out there. So that's good news. Foreign leadership, I want to quickly do this before we wrap it up, but foreign leadership, like if there's ever a time where we've recognized the importance of foreign leadership, it's got to be this time, because we're now going to be out there. We now know we have to diversify. So relationships other than the United States are going to be really, really important. So leadership within our government, to go out there. We're great people. Everybody loves Canada, right? They love Canadians come and visit. They love to deal with Canada. I get phone calls. I'm working on a deal right now with people in Saudi Arabia for a company in Cambridge is doing some work in Saudi Arabia. So because they want to deal with us.
Right.
And I get calls from countries all the time saying, Greg, is there any way we can deal with we want to deal with Canadians, right? I don't know. Maybe we're suckers. I don't know, but I think we're just good, honest
We're
people.
trusted. We're trusted partners.
Yeah. So
it comes
how
down
important is that going to be going forward now with the new world order?
It's always been important. It's always been a priority of our government. But you're 100% right. The spotlight on that has been key. And I can say, look, we have a leader in Mark Carney that I think got more done in 9 days in office as the Prime Minister than the leader of the opposition got done in 20 years. But one of the first things he did was he went to Europe. And he didn't go there for a vacation. He went there to shore up support and to make sure from a NATO perspective, but also shore up support from a trade perspective. And he went to France. He went to England. And he was invited, obviously, to attend both of those countries. But this is a person who has literally in his phone, he can reach out to almost any world leader. His experience globally as the governor of the Bank of Canada, as the governor of the Bank of England, but also in his work in the UN, has exposed him to world leaders across the planet. And so his background and the work that he's doing, that's public domain. This is no question he is the best person for Canada right now, that given that this is such a big priority. But I can tell you that our caucus is keenly aware of this. And in fact, most of July of this year, I actually spent in the United States. And you said, outside the United States. But I think that relationship needs to be reimagined. And I can tell you I spent a lot of time in the United States, Washington, Detroit, Portland, Philadelphia. And what I was doing there is I was talking to state legislators who may not have been around in the first Trump administration. And making sure they understood that, hey, in your district, these are the top 3 employers. Did you know that 90% of the raw materials for that business comes from Canada? Did you know that we're your number 1 customer? And those conversations were big eye openers for them. And I can't tell you how many text messages I've gotten in the last couple of months from those folks saying, we are sorry. We don't know what's going on. And things like, we're pushing on our side as well because they're hurting right now. Yeah. I know there's especially within the auto sector. Yeah. When I was in Detroit, they were very concerned about what Donald Trump was saying during the election. And the challenges that they're facing are exponentially higher than the challenges that we're facing because of these tariffs. Yeah. And so this is being recorded. This isn't live. So whenever anybody is watching this could completely change. Yeah. It seems to be changing every day. But right now, at the moment that we're filming this, we still have those 25% tariff on vehicles going back and forth. The challenge for that is the entire industry is fully integrated. We know that a car coming off the lot or coming off the line in Toyota has already crossed that border in the form of parts 7 times before it's even fully finished and sold. Not the least of which, the overwhelming majority of those are being sold in the United States. The challenge that they're now faced with is Trump saying, well, it's 25% on all foreign vehicles, but only the foreign parts. So they're like I'm not kidding. The conversations that they're having is, well, the bolt was made in the U.S., but the nut was made in Canada. Yeah. How we calculate this? And the challenge, again, it's about chaos. It's about the uncertainty.
Personally, I think that's the off-ramp he's got. Yeah. To say too difficult to.
Well, as
long as it falls within the Kuzma thing, there's no tariff. So that, if he, I suggest that that's going to be his off ramp. But because car companies can do that. Yeah. They can run it off right away and tell you exactly where what comes from. However, but yeah, it's 50% of the vehicles coming off or more of coming off of the line at TMMC in Cambridge are American parts. Yeah. The rest come from Mexico and Canada and, maybe other places in the world too. So.
Well, and that's it. And getting back to your question about that foreign affairs aspect
Yeah.
of what we do, we need to be that trusted partner. And we are in so many different ways. I remember going to Armenia in 2016, and we had Canadian companies there talking to that country about their mining interests. And I asked them, I said, well, you have other countries that are much closer than Canada that have history of mining. Why Canada? And they said, well, you're an honest broker.
Yeah.
We trust you. And maintaining that trust is going to be key. We need to make sure that we're out there in the world, not just for those countries' support, but for the businesses and the infrastructure here. And we've got the bold vision that Mark has been, Prime Minister Carney has been sharing over the last number of weeks. It's going to take a whole heck of a lot of work to make sure that we can get the materials that we need here, and make sure that we can supply the world.
Yeah, for sure. Bryan, why should people in Cambridge vote for you?
Well, I've been talking about this a lot at the tours over the last couple of weeks. I've served this community not just for the last 10 years as your member of parliament, but I've served Cambridge and North Dumfries for a very long time before that, whether it was with the YMCA. I worked at the University of Waterloo helping students get their first jobs. I worked for the Boys and Girls Club again in the nonprofit sector. For me, my career is about service, and that hasn't changed. I think that the legislative side of what we do is critical. Being up in Ottawa, the work that we do there, passing good laws, critical. It's what gets all the attention in the media. But it's about a third of what I do.
Yeah.
It's about 100 days, 120 days a year. The rest of the time I'm here. And I think what a lot of candidates will often say is, and I hear this every election, and I may have been guilty of this in 2011 when I first ran as well. You often hear the phrase, I want to be your voice in Ottawa, not Ottawa's voice in Cambridge and North Dumfries. Which is obvious. That is critical. It's important. It's the whole point of having representation. But you also have to be a strong voice in your community. And if you're not a strong voice in your community, if you're not present, if you're not getting out to every single event, which I see you out a lot as well, you'll never really understand what your community needs. And what really drives me, what really drives my staff, is when we're able to pass that final hurdle on a critical immigration case, or a case that somebody's been struggling dealing with CRA, or we've been able to get a mother of three their Canada Child Benefit that she's been denied for the last 3 years. This is the kind of thing that really is important. And look, you got to show up. You got to show up for this, not just for the election, but for the job. And I have the energy to continue, and I have the permission from my spouse to do this. Every election's the same. I gotta ask for permission, and she's letting me do this, and my family.
Well, and there's evidence right here, right now, that you showed up for this interview, and there's a lot of people that wouldn't if they knew they had to sit down with me.
I don't know about that. You're a pretty easygoing guy. But honestly, Greg, thank you so much. This is a great way to connect with people. I've never missed a debate in 14 years of doing this. Never missed an opportunity to speak with you and speak to the people that watch this. So.
Thanks very much, Bryan. It's been great. And good luck.
Thank you.
Wear out a few more pairs of shoes before the end of this thing.
I've got my new runners on, so I got my new red runners every election, and they won't be usable at the end, but I have a shelf in Ottawa with all my election shoes. So
thanks, and all the best.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you.